and welcome to another presentation of Art Thursday in our Art Thursday series. I am very pleased to introduce you to Jean Efron, principal of Jean Efron Art Consultants. Prior to opening her firm, Jean was the Fine Arts Officer of the U.S. General Services Administration. During her career, Jean has been selected for numerous professional honors. She has juried and curated exhibitions for institutions such as the Corcoran Gallery of Art, the City of Baltimore, the Smithsonian Craft Show, and the College Board, as well as various university galleries and local exhibitions. Jean has spoken at venues that include Smithsonian Institution Resident Associates Program, University of Pennsylvania Regional Trustees Council, and U.S. News and World Report, among others. Her research on art of the 1930s and the outdoor sculpture of Washington of that period has been published. Jean holds a BA in the history of art and architecture from the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, and an MA in the history of art and architecture from George Washington University. Today, Jean will discuss her firm's work in selecting and placing artworks in both indoor and outdoor public spaces. Without further delay, I will turn this over to Jean and enjoy the time with her, and thank you very much for joining us. Yeah. Jean, it's all yours.
Two quick housekeeping things real quick. You may have noticed your video is off. I'm going to try to keep videos off and things muted until the Q&A at the end. And we are, as usual, recording this, so we'll post to YouTube after. But feel free to type questions into the chat so I can read them off at the end, or just remember them, and then we can ask them in the Q&A section at the end. But if you have any technical issues or questions, just type them into the chat to me, but we'll hand off and get started.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Jonas. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with my neighbors what I do professionally. And I see many of you here, and it's wonderful to see you. Before I get started, I want you to meet the right arm here. Jane Snyder, my colleague, who is responsible for so much of the work we do. I think I'm just going to get Jane to wave at you. So I bet you've never thought about how a large sculpture gets there. And I know many of you have noticed large sculptures because you've asked me about the sculpture at Washington Harbor. We are not responsible for that sculpture, but it is an example of a large scale artwork of the kind that we do. Let me just talk to you about what my firm does. We work with developers to select the artist and to manage the fabrication and placement of artworks. And this is called a commission, an artwork that goes from beginning to end, and we're making that happen, or someone causes that to happen. Today, we're going to see a number of the artworks that we have installed, many of which are throughout Washington. Most of them are in Washington, and some are in our Foggy Bottom neighborhood. But my firm also works with corporations, law firms, businesses to acquire artworks and to build art collections. And once they're built, we often work with the firms. We're fortunate over many, many years, as many as 30 years, we've gone back to our clients back and forth to augment their collections, to help them move, to manage their collections in other ways, to appraise them. So, and that's a particular pleasure that we do. So many of you say to me, or many people say to me, gee, you must have so much fun in what you do. The truth is, I love my job, but until we have the solution, it can be stressful. And what I mean by that is the following. We have complex problems to solve with a lot of challenges. So for example, what is involved in a project would be, number one, a client. Who is the client? What are their objectives? How many of them are there telling us what they want? 1 or 14? What is the site? Where's the artwork going? Is it out of doors? Is it a large scale indoor work? How does it work with the architecture? Is there something it has to relate to, a building or a lobby or otherwise? How does it fit? What is the budget? What will the budget allow us to do? And in many of our cases, and this is why I say, I laugh when I say it's stressful, is that Jane and I are dealing with a lot of money, because if it's an artwork for a 30-story office tower, that's a multi-million-dollar project. And so the art is not, I wish the art did cost millions of dollars, but it doesn't. But nevertheless, it is a lot of money. It is a lot of responsibility to make sure that the client gets an artwork of long-term interest and value. Other challenges that we have is that we're often dealing with municipalities. So, for example, we're dealing now with the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission in a couple of jobs, and we have to report to them at certain levels, at certain stages, and they have to approve what we're doing. And if they don't, then we have to go back and fix it. So the other question is, who is the artist? What's the medium? All of this has to be thought through. We have to present to our client. Jane and I have to sit and think about who's the right person for this job, who could do something that fits the job, fits the budget, who can deliver. So we make a presentation of a number of artists who we think will solve the problem, and the client will go from there. The first commission that I'm going to show you is one that I'm particularly proud of. It's Terrell Place. Terrell Place is the former Hex department store that's opposite the Verizon Center. Some of you may know Rosa Mexicana. I haven't been there in a while, so it may not be there anymore, but that's the building that this project is in. And it is the location of the first lunch counter sit-in Washington, D.C. It was led by a woman named Mary Church Terrell, who was a civil rights activist, and the building is named after Mary Church Terrell. The challenge for this project, this is a little bit after the fact, is here are the original windows in the department store. So the question became, after I stood there a long time thinking about it, well, of course, in a department store window, you'd see a mannequin. A mannequin is a sculpture. So that's an answer to this. We need sculpture for the windows. Then the question became, who should do the sculpture? And it seemed right to me that if the building is named after a civil rights activist and a suffragette, Mary Church Terrell, that the solution would be to see if we could find an African-American sculptor. And in fact, we did. We were really so lucky. Elizabeth Catlett, African-American sculptor, a great sculptor, was living in Washington at the time. She had taught at Howard. She was quite elderly. That was one of the challenges. Our projects like this last or can take a year or two or possibly 3 to complete. So the question was, one, could we get Elizabeth Catlett to do this work? She was in her mid to late 80s. Could she do it? Was she interested? And fortunately, she was interested in doing the job. And so those are the windows. These are the completed works. Elizabeth decided that she would illustrate aspects of the life of Mary Church Terrell, a mother, a teacher with her back to us. And then in the far back is warding off evil. That's an art historical, what would you call it, sign, symbol, right, of warding off evil that's used. Georgia O'Keeffe used it in some of her work. So these are, and then of course there are other artworks, but that's another view of the lobby. And you can see how you can see the works from outside. So this is the artist working on the pieces. Elizabeth was also an activist, so it really suited the project from beginning to end. And fortunately, and we became good friends, she was able to complete the work. And I would say one of the most wonderful things about that project was that she said to me in a dinner celebrating her, she said to me, looked at me straight in the eye, and she said, "Jean, I did this project for Mary Church Terrell, not you." So that was fine because she did a beautiful job. And I think the other thing about this project that makes me so proud is that the building has been renovated and the artworks are now in the Museum of African American History and Culture. This is a project that we finished a couple of years ago. This is in Tyson's Corner, 1775 Tyson's Boulevard. We have two large commissions here. The first commission is for the interior. This is me on site with a construction crew. That's something I'll say at this point. Our job involves many trades. It's not just Jane and me. It's not just Jane and me and the client. It's Jane, me, the client, construction crews, many different trades, all of whom have, of course, their own timelines and requirements that we have to fulfill. But the challenge in this job, the first challenge was a particular challenge. The client said to me, "Jean, I don't want any art on the floor in the lobby." And I thought, how do you have art in the lobby and it's not on the floor? Well, when I was walking through, I went back to my days living in Rouen, France, and the great cathedral there. And it felt like I was walking down the nave in that cathedral. And I looked up and I thought, of course, the glass is in the windows. There were rose windows. So that's how that solution came about. And what you're seeing on the screen now is a test film of the art film in the glass. They were trying it out. And here it is again. And you're looking at it again. It surrounds the building. It goes all the way around the lobby on three sides. The artist, one of the wonderful things about this is that the art changes all the time. The light comes through the windows and depending on the type of day, it changes. And certainly the time of day, it changes. So the tenants of the building or anyone going in the building is always presented with something different. And one of the wonderful things about it is the artwork brings the outside in. It brings nature into the lobby of the building. And as I said, it changes all the time. The artist is very interested in taking light meter readings to determine the colors he would use. So he took light meter readings from the roof of the building under construction. That was quite a chore, getting him up there to take those light meter readings. But here you get a sense of how the artwork changes throughout the day. This is here just to say that this artist was the only artist chosen to do the 9/11 commission. The second artwork for this job is an outdoor sculpture. It's seen here on Park Avenue in New York, of course. Here it is on site in the building. The challenge here was that the artwork is about 22 feet high, was to have an artwork that could be seen from the 30th floor of this building. And the desire was to have it seen as far as possible across or throughout Tyson's Corner, which I'm happy to say that can be done. The artwork was taken from New York City to Florida, where it was repainted and then shipped on a flatbed truck in parts back up to Tyson's Corner. And what really interests me about the artwork especially is that I love the way its dynamism and the way it creates so much energy and enlivens the site. And of course, how it looks both day and night. This is a project I think a lot of you will recognize this artwork from the Renwick show Wonder. It's by Gabrielle Daw. The challenge, some of you may have seen this. It is in Washington Harbor. This is the one work in Washington Harbor that we're responsible for, not the other one. And this is a wonderful client who wanted to give up what would be traditionally a reception area for an artwork, and was willing to bring the artist up from Texas, originally from Mexico, to have him create the artwork on site. Here's Gabrielle. It's a single thread that goes from floor to ceiling or ceiling to floor. And a number of people, what was one of the nice things about this is that a number of people walking by to Starbucks and whatever in the plaza were able to watch Gabrielle make the artwork, and that was fun. So there he is. So this can be seen as you're walking by. This is 1700 New York Avenue. The site was the former Corcoran office building. And the challenge for us is always, well, what can we do to make this artwork special? What does this artwork say about the building that would be different or unique? The back of this building, if you could picture it, looks across the Potomac River, and you can see the Potomac landscape up and down very, very far. And the artist wanted to capture that in, these are light boxes. They're LED lights behind color films. I drove him up and down the Potomac River for over 8 hours one day while he took light meter readings from the Potomac River. It obviously varies different times of the day so that he could capture the different tonalities and intensities from the sky at those various times of the day. So this is the Potomac River. This site actually has acquired even more meaning since we did it. This is 916th Street Northwest. Just to your right is Black Lives Matter Plaza. Our challenges at the time had to do with the artist is in Ireland, or was in Ireland. The artwork was made in Germany. It was shipped over here. The installation was made from templates, which prescribed exactly where the various rods would go, how far apart, which colors would go where. And what's interesting about the artwork, I think you can't tell here, is that it's meant really to be seen while you're moving. So one enters this building and you continue moving past the receptionist in this case. But as you go by, the rods appear, the colors appear to melt into one another. So it's kind of an interactive artwork in a way. We installed this artwork in Reston, Sunrise Valley Drive. It's 16 feet high and 10 feet in diameter. It was shipped to Reston from upstate New York and installed with a crane, of course. So these are some works that we're working on now. They're in progress. This is the corner of Colesville Road and Georgia Avenue in Silver Spring. And there's one of the 14-member art committee members standing there. We were on site. There's the Panera Bread. This whole project is being renovated. We were brought in by the client. We worked with the landscape architects. This shows the kind of thing we work with when we get a project. We were doing a site view here. The landscape is rather rolling in the sense that this is Colesville Road and it's rather high. So, and it comes down when it meets Georgia Avenue. And we get something like this. Everything behind this is now renovated or being renovated. The sculpture was to go, you can see on the left in that grassy area. The challenges were in this 14-member art committee, we have never, ever been asked for the following. The clients wanted the following: something fun, funny, weird, Instagrammable, and interactive, to name of the few descriptors of what the various members of the art committee wanted. So this was a tremendous challenge. What we've ended up with, that I'll show you in a minute, and this is in progress, will be 3 24 to 30 foot high sculptures. We're already 2 years into the making. And many of you may recognize this from the Burning Man exhibition at, again, it turns out to be the Renwick. And this is the commission that is in progress now. It can be seen day and night. So this is the daytime view. There, it is stainless steel. I think you may be able to read some of this. Jane, who's working on this now night and day, can fill you in on some of the details if we have time. But there are LED lights going through the sculptures. The buds open and close. They can be seen at night. And they're also interactive. Let Jane tell you how they're interactive.
So there will be a QR code at the base of the sculptures, and you'll be able to scan the QR code with your phone, and then you can change the colors of the lights that will go up and down along the sculpture, along the flower stems and through the blooms.
And then the blooms will close, let's say if it's snowing or the weather is bad. I mentioned earlier that we have to work with the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission and other municipalities. We also are working with the Maryland Historical Trust. Both bodies have a say in this artwork and what it looks like. They have to approve the concept. We have to go back to them, having incorporated their ideas and for further approvals. The artworks are at a busy intersection, so they have to be seen from various levels, from far away and from close up. And they're also seen by pedestrians, passersby. So as Jane points out, they have to not be climbable, but Instagrammable. So we don't want children or others climbing them, of course. So this is the artwork in progress. You can see a bloom up on the upper left. And I think that's the makings of one of the blooms down here that you're seeing on the table. Another project we have in Tysons is a building. This is often what we get. Well, for all of our projects, we get floor plans and elevations, but this is just a quick look of some notes I was taking on the elevations, trying to determine where would this artwork go, what would the dimensions be. This goes through a lot of iterations, a lot of talk about what that might be. This is the lobby before it has been renovated. The artwork is in progress now, so actually it still looks like this. So the client wants an artwork. As you would guess, the tenants are turning over, they're younger. They wanted an artwork that would be exciting and appeal to a younger tenant, that would energize the space. And this is the artwork selected. This is what the proposal, and this is being fabricated now. A project that we're working on now that is particularly exciting, that will take many, many years to complete, this is from NOMA, north of Massachusetts Avenue. And we're reporting to NOMA and the Business Improvement District. We're working with the Department of Transportation. We're working with landscape architects, but all of this is going to change. I think you'll recognize this. This artwork will be seen from the major entrance to Washington from New York and Baltimore. So it's, I think, extremely significant site. And the artwork that will go there, I think, has to be particularly impressive. I think one of the major challenges of this particular project is the major gateway entrance to the west is the Lincoln Memorial. So that would be its competition, but I don't think we're going there. But you can see that the other challenge is this is very congested. There are many streets that are converging, but the Department of Transportation is working on that, and that will change. Again, in this case, I think I mentioned the many levels of approval that we have to go through, Department of Transportation, the north of Massachusetts, and so on. So this will be many years in the making. What you're looking at now is the final design for the layout of the entry. And we're thinking that the artwork will be in that middle triangle where next to where the bus is. This is Reagan National Airport, but this is to show you that this artist, I'd always loved this work. This is Jane standing in front of a 30-foot wall of a building at 401 9th Street. One side of the building is Pennsylvania Avenue. The other side is the FBI. Yeah, the FBI, right. And so the question is what to put on that wall. And this is the way a project develops. The artist was selected. This is his proposal for the artwork. Those would be pieces of metal leaves made out of hammered metal. And it will have lighting. Jane, the lighting will change throughout the day. It will be programmed. Sorry, that's the word. It will be programmed. Here's a close-up. Again, this is just what we call a maquette. Another maquette showing hammered leaves. There'll be quite a few of these. This is another view in the building. On either side, an alcove on either side of this directory will be artworks. These are 9 feet wide. The sculptures are 9 feet wide, and they're lit from within. Those are all handmade, hand-colored resin elements. And this is the artwork on the other side. This is a project that's in the works now. This is in Germantown. There are 2 sets of commissions here. This was completed by a sculptor who lives in Colorado. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Another part of this project, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of all of them, but there's a special pleasure in this one. And I'm going to get Jane to tell you about this. These are students.
This is a youth arts program based in Montgomery County, working with high school students who are interested in art and primarily come from more disadvantaged backgrounds. And they're brought into this program both to design and develop projects, but also to learn how to work and complete a project. And so they are the ones developing the designs for the mosaics that will be throughout this multi-use development. And then they deal with us as the client, and they make a presentation of designs, and then they proceed to fabrication, and they work through all the stages of the project.
So this is a maquette that they submitted that was approved by the client. And so you see them implementing that maquette now. This is a project that has been in the works for a very long time. This is the addition to DC Superior Courthouse. There are tremendous challenges throughout this project. And I guess the major one was really the multiple layers of approval, the levels of judges that were involved in this.
Sorry, someone wasn't muted.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, when we talk about challenges and clients, there's probably not only do we have the court administrative staff and the architects to be involved and the clerk of the court, everybody having a say, but we also had 2 levels of judges being involved. The Superior Court judges had a say, and the next level of senior judges also have a say in what goes there. So this is in the works. The other aspect of what we do are collections, and this is where we really started our work. We worked, Miller and Chevalier as a law firm. Again, this is located, that is Black Lives Matter Boulevard or Plaza, directly below this balcony. And there is a view to the right as you go down the hallway to the right of the White House. A first-class view of what's been going on. The challenge here was that the space was stark white, and the client was not happy with that and wanted color. This painting is 9 feet square to give you an indication of the size. You'll see a little bit, get a better idea of the size here. We worked on this project. The artwork did not fit in the elevator or the stairwell, so it had to be brought off the side of the building. And this is some of the artwork that went in the rest of the project. Again, you'll see the emphasis on color. Some of you may recognize this work by Sam Gilliam, probably Washington's best known artist. This is a very special job. This is in our neighborhood. This is at 2112 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, a law firm that we've been working with for many, many years. We've moved them into various different offices. They moved in, what, a couple of years ago, Jane? And this is the space, that's Pennsylvania Avenue, it's right above, what's the Flower restaurant? There's also an Italian restaurant down there. This artwork was made by an artist in, I think she was in Albuquerque at the time. And this artist is from Los Angeles. She was flown to Washington. What was needed here, the architects didn't want anything hanging on the walls. So we need to find something that went on the wall. And the idea here, the client is an international law firm. So they have offices around the world. They asked each office in each country, in each city, to give them the names of buildings in their city that they'd like to see in this mural. So the artist has brought in her drawings of these buildings and connected them. And on each floor, there are 2 floors of this mural. There are different colors. This is the 10th floor, I think, and this is the 11th floor. So some of the buildings would be recognizable. This, I think, may be a special interest to our group. This is the top floor of 2112 Pennsylvania. This is the back looking toward Reagan National Airport. This is very sunny. This is the cafeteria, the cafe. This is the artist walking the space to figure out what she wanted to do. And this is her solution. to the space. These are washable murals. Washable because they're in eating areas. And the thing that is so particularly special about this to me is that this artist is the artist, and you'll know this in a minute, who did the murals in our West End library. When I saw those artworks, what we call the clear story level of the library, I almost had a wreck because I thought they were wonderful. And I tracked down the artist, found her, and she's the artist who did this commission. The next part of this job was maybe the biggest challenge I've ever had in my work. I don't know if Jane feels the same way. The partners at this time were young, and the partners said to me, Jean, these are the stairwells. There are 2 7th-floor stairwells in the offices and 7 stories, I guess, 7 levels. And the partner said, well, I saw some artwork in the Sofitel in Paris that I loved. And I said, well, what were they? And he sent me pictures of Donald Duck and Minnie Mouse. And I tried to recover. I thought, well, this is the end of my career. We're usually asked for pictures of George Washington, but this is a first. So these are, this is what's called street art. This artist is, we found, he'd been at Yale. He's in Brooklyn. The firm brought him to Washington, and he spent, 2 weeks in each stairwell, painting all the walls of the stairwell. I'm told that the partners love it. I thought some of the senior partners might be unhappy, but the word is that everybody loves to go in the stairwells, and they use these stairwells all the time. It's easier to use them than it is the elevators. So they have an ongoing art collection. We moved them from their other offices, which were down the street. They bought new art. We also redeployed existing art, reframed it, cataloged it. We deaccessioned some of it, which means to sell it. But it's an ongoing collection. I've left this in because it's so charming. This is Finnegan Henderson. This is just an example of how what we do varies. And this is something that I love about what we do. It allows us as art historians to dip into what we've studied over the years. In this case, it's much more, of course, contemporary and up to date, but it's an example of our saying, now what can we do for this client that is meaningful? And what we thought about is this is a patent law firm, and these attorneys are often engineers, among other things, and they're interested in how things are made. And I don't think there's anything more interesting in its making than blown glass. So these are 2 pieces. These are by an artist from Finland or Sweden. I think she's from Sweden. We had a lot of fun. This artist is from, works in the Berkshires. And this is obviously their cafeteria. This is a law firm that is 1700 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. What was the challenge for me, this is one of the first jobs I ever had, is the client, the managing partner in Atlanta said to me, I don't care what it is as long as I recognize it. Like trees are fine, he said. So I thought, oh my goodness, what do I do? Well, I'm interested in American art of the 1930s and 40s. So the theme of this collection is American art of the 30s and 40s, and art during that, American art during that time was representational regionalism, if you will. We were able over time to have the collection grow and change and to include American modernist paintings and artwork. The firm also does specialized in labor law. So a number of the artworks, and interestingly enough, because the W Works Progress Administration was working in the 30s, of course, and had to do with labor, that so many of the artworks derive from that period. This is a relief for a mural that's in a Washington building. This is what an artist would have submitted to the Fine Arts Commission for approval to make her reliefs. And on the left, you see an artwork that we put in later when we were allowed to do artworks that were more abstract. This is one of the things that's so enjoyable about what we do. We can include, depending on the job, different kinds of art. This is an unschooled artist who was doing, as you can see, the Capitol. And then to the right, you'll get to see this collection has photographs, paintings, prints, some ceramic art. So it has a tremendous amount of art. They're renovating in space now, in the space, and they're taking on about 6 or 8 floors. And the art is being stored and redeployed very quickly. This was a huge wall in a building. How to resolve it. This is a 20-foot light box. This can be seen from the taxi line at Union Station. This is a client of many, many years. We're often asked to do a Washington collection. What we like to stay away from are lots of pictures of cherry blossoms and the Washington Monument. So this is a collection by artists from Washington or Baltimore, the area, the region. And this is, Jane and I are working on this now. This is Capital One's Performing Arts Center. This is exciting. This will be the new Watermark Hotel in Tyson's at Cap One. And then very quickly, we do collections management. This is the law firm of Arnold and Porter. We moved over 400 artworks from one building to the other. The artworks had to, of course, come off the wall, is what you're seeing. They had to have what's called conservation. They'd been in place for many, many years. This is a huge one. This is it coming off the wall. This is being wrapped. You can see the numbers of people that are involved in this. Conservators, art installers, movers. They have to be rolled. They go out the window. They're too big to go through the stairwell or the elevators. They're craned out of the window. And then it's back, of course. Many of them had conservation. This you may recognize is Sam Gilliam. This is it coming off the wall. It was taken out of the window there. It's going back up, and there it is. This is another artwork coming off the wall, and it's going back up. Same here. This is a sculpture that is going up to the roof level. This is a conservator working on it. This is the way it looks from their lobby. And this is the law firm of Baker Botts, for whom we've worked many, many years. This was a matter of moving all of their artwork to their new location opposite the new Apple store and the convention center. These, again, it's very special, and it's a Washington collection. These were done by Joseph Albers in commemoration of the opening of the Hirshhorn Museum. These are the maquettes for the windows at in the central terminal at Reagan National Airport. These are the drawings from which the windows were made. And you can't see what these are, but these are photographs by William Christenberry of F Street before it was renovated. And then last is we're very proud to say that we worked with our client, a private client, to sell their painting at auction in London, and it set an auction record for our very own Sam Gilliam, many of whom Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Sam and his work. This went into a private collection, and this is another private collection. And this is one of my favorites. It may be, Jane will have to speak for herself. This is the last thing you'll see today. The Washington Nationals asked us to take all their memorabilia, T-shirts, baseballs, bobbleheads, bats, photographs, and redo them, redeploy them in their offices. And we're working with a designer from the National Gallery of Art to implement this project. It's on hold, I'm sorry to say. Now this would be an example of what he showed the executive officers what one of the plans was, the cases and how it would look throughout their offices. We had a lot of fun. The general manager drove us around. You would never believe how big Nationals Park is. So we were driven around the bowels of National Park. We had a first-class view. And this is a great fan of the Washington Nationals, who some of you know from Watergate West. So that's my presentation. And I'm glad to answer any questions that you may have. Jane's here to answer too.
Great, thank you very much. I definitely enjoyed that as much as the first time, the pictures especially. There were a couple questions, but I had one. How do you find the artists that you select for each installation?
Oh my goodness. I talked about challenge is a major theme of this talk. And I would have to say it's the biggest challenge of all. We're always looking. It never stops. And because our work varies so much, is that we're looking at artwork all the time in different media from different parts of the world, different periods. And what we'll do is, of course, keep artworks of a certain type in a database so that we would be looking in a certain area of the database for artworks that would fit a certain job. So whether it's large scale installation art, they're stored in different ways, but we look to those. But on any single day, every single day, there are emails from dealers everywhere around the United States, nationally and internationally, with PDFs full of artworks that they want us to see. So what Jane and I do is we curate those and decide what we like, and then we try to manage keeping it. And then when the job comes, it's a matter of sitting down and thinking, now, where do we want to look? What do we think the solution is? Who are the artists? And we'll go to our database or our memory bank. It's the biggest challenge.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely sounds like a challenge, remembering everything and matching it all up and things like that. A couple questions. How did you get started doing large public art and installations like that?
My first job was for the U.S. General Services Administration. And the General Services Administration, when I started, I was fortunate, got Congress allowed 0.5% of federal construction funds. GSA builds all federal buildings and manages them. But so in that sense, GSA also commissions the architects to build the buildings, and it also commissions the artists to make the art for those buildings. And that was my first job. It started out locating all the works of art done during the 1930s and 40s that were installed in federal buildings, but then it morphed into commissioning art for the federal buildings. And so because federal buildings are so large and the artworks were primarily going out of doors. That was the start of commissioning art, these large scale artworks for buildings. And I liked it so much that we were able to do that now when we started, although when we started, mostly it was collections that we did.
Great. We got a couple questions on who is the artist for XYZ thing, most of which don't match anymore, but who is the artist for the white spiral installation? I think it was one of the ones in Tyson.
Alice Aycock.
Okay. A couple other ones. Yeah. Could you say more about the installation in Roslyn, the Cupid's Dart, or whichever one that was? How you picked that sculpture?
Well, could you be? Well, I'm not sure which one you're referring to. In Roslyn, could you say? Repeat the.
I'll ask them to well, whoever asked that question, if you could specify a little more, if you can remember. But I'll ask a different question while I'm waiting for that. Who's responsible for the maintenance of these, especially outdoor works, and sort of the public-private, how it differs working with public institutions and private institutions?
A really good question. And when we are thinking of the artists, there's so many questions that go into making that selection and the recommendation to the client. And that is, what kind of maintenance is required? And the artist also has to be able to give us maintenance instructions. But then once it passes muster that can be done, it's up to the client to keep up the maintenance.
Great. Do you keep a catalog of all the works that are going to these various private collections? It's sort of a question from one of the people that works in museums, is access to works of art like that.
We keep what we call project slides, project photographs in the client file.
Okay. How is the process of presenting artworks to the clients before decisions are made? How does that process work?
Well, that's quite a process. I just saw Jane smile at me. That's really something. Talk about stress, because the background of that is we're thinking, this is how much money we have. This is what the client is asking for. What's the solution here? But then we have to make a presentation to the client, which could be, if we were lucky, it would just be one person. It would be a king. But we never have that. It's a law firm art committee, or it's a committee. And we have to present options for each location that we're proposing to treat. And I'll give you an example of talking about the challenge. That 20-foot light box was a real challenge. It was a big job. I mean, there were 2 or 3 floors of art there, but we had probably 12 people from the law firm who were around the table who had a say in this. And I know that I was very vested in the solution, and it was hard, and I was sure I had it right. And then one of the managing partners was sitting there, and he said, "Jean, and you call this art?" And the room was just stock still. So we've been lucky. So it happened, and we've been lucky. We have great clients. They're wonderful people. And but the process of deciding what they're going to see and putting it in front of them is the biggest challenge of all.
I can certainly imagine that. Clients, the difficulty there. Someone asked a specific question about textile art. So I'm going to broaden that to, do you have a particular style of art you favor? And then this person asked why you don't use textile art, but.
Oh, but we do. Yeah. Oh, yes, we do. And I love it. You haven't seen all of our projects. So we have used it and are glad to use it. We have to be careful about how we use it, where we put it, because they're in public places. So, anybody can go up and put their hands on it. They have to be encased. Sometimes they're put in a place where you can't reach it, but we most definitely have. And we've used textiles, ancient textiles. We put a cloth that was done in 1860, a weaving, a rare weaving in a space too, but we've done contemporary too.
Has it become more difficult in recent years, the changes in art taste and preference over the years?
I'm sorry. Oh yeah. Jane reminds me to say that one of the things that we have to be careful of is light fading. Any artwork, but textiles are particularly vulnerable to light, so we have to be careful of that. But we do use them and are glad to use them. Contemporary and ancient, older.
Great. Have you found how have the sort of the changes in art taste and preference over the years affected your work?
Yes.
And the things you select?
Yes, I think the prime example of that is the street art in the stairwells over at 2112 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's been a challenge. I mean, when I started out, law firms were exceedingly conservative, and you had to be very, very careful that nothing was political, no nudes, nothing political. And now you've seen the street art. That was a real challenge. I thought, boy, this is the end of my career. Some senior partner is going to walk in here and fire me. But this is how things change.
Great. We probably have time for maybe one or two more questions. Let's see if there's anything I missed in here. In terms of we had a question about the Terrell building, which I know you started of. So you mentioned the gesture or the signal represented by it. Do you remember what that was signaling? You may have mentioned this in the talk, but I wanted to clarify that.
We're talking about the sculpture from the first project. The figure of Mary Church Terrell is warding off evil. And that's a gesture that's used throughout art history in various periods. Well, that's what it means. And in this particular case, what Mary Church Terrell was saying is that she was warding off, and I guess a lot of the things that are talked about now in the Black Lives Matter movement. That was a real challenge at the time for the client to allow that figure. And I mean, that was an office building lobby. They had to attract tenants to the building, and they were concerned about how their prospective tenants would take it, but they were absolutely fine about it. But that's what this means. And that would be part of Mary Church Terrell, of what she was about.
Great. Yeah, I think we're just about out of time, but thank you very much for sharing. And I definitely learned a lot and saw some great pictures and things like that. But I wanted to say thank you, and thank you to everyone for coming.